Manchester City, Continental Cup winners 2022.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of MCW Fancast. I'm Emma, thanks for listening. We're back for the final stretch of 2022 as players return to their clubs respectively following the international break. City regroup and look ahead to Saturday and their trip to Walton Park Hall, home of Everton. This week I'm delighted to welcome back Dave and Paul to the podcast as we recap on our last game against Reading and discuss all the latest news surrounding the club. Dave, Paul, thank you so much for joining me. Dave, how are you doing?
Hi Emma, thanks for having us on again. Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
How's things, Paul?
Yeah, good. We're on a good run, so things are looking up. Lots of grounds for optimism. So and a winnable game at the weekend, I think.
Yeah, obviously looking ahead to Everton. We'll start obviously with the last match just before the international break away to Reading. Dave, you were there for that one. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, I thought we played well. I thought it was Reading were a very stubborn side to break down, as they have been many times in the past. I'm sure if you've been to these Reading games over the years, that's the sort of team, it works for them and that's the way they are. They're very good at it. I thought first half we needed to be a little bit more clinical, maybe up front first half, but we were the better side and pushed them back a lot. And then obviously we did get a little bit of a break with the own goals. I mean, people said, "Oh, it's a bit jammy." It's not jammy because we were creating chance after half time. And I think if you're going to put those sort of dangerous balls into the box, there is always a chance that if not only your strikers can get on the end of them, but things like own goals can happen as well. There were such good balls into the box that it gave us a breakthrough, and we controlled. And I honestly think we controlled the game from beginning to end. I don't think there was any point. I mean, Reading had a little flurry, I think, at 2-0 down, which they were bound to do to have a go. But I don't think we were ever in any danger of not winning the game. I was confident even at half time at 0-0 that we were going to win that game, and it proved correct. And another goal for Bunny as well into the mix. I mean, just outstanding goal scoring this season so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, the own goals. I mean, I think it was Emma Mitchell, wasn't it? I think to do it once is devastating, but to do it twice, it's not great really for Reading, and they've had a bit of a turbulent start this season so far. But you did almost feel, Paul, that the breakthrough, like Dave said, was going to come. It did pretty early on into that second half, and City dominated a lot of the ball as well.
Well, I mean, you look at the numbers: 77% possession, which is sort of the way City like to play. They like to have that sort of possession, and Dave's absolutely right. Reading are one of those teams that like when teams come to the Etihad, they like to sit back and try and hit you on the break. And I thought we controlled the game. We had some hard chances in the first half. I mean, another day Bunny might have had a hat trick. She wasn't quite at the races in the first half, but second half she showed a class. We're well taken goal, nicely set up by Mary Fowler, who did very well when she came on. But we're now on a roll. We've won 4 consecutive WSL games, 12 of the last 14 WSL games. We're coming back into form. And I was thinking about this the other day. I think this team in transition is further ahead than perhaps Gareth Taylor thought it was going to be. If you were neutral and you didn't know much about City, you wouldn't have thought that was a team that's fairly new as a unit. So the fact that they could control over 3/4 of the possession, force 2 errors from a decent defender, and score a decent goal at the end. I think we think that was a job well done. It's a tricky away game, and they did a number on Reading.
Dave, when you looked at the lineup, obviously, what did you think? Because there were quite a few changes on the day as well.
I was happy actually to see that there was as we spoke about in the last podcast, there was the opportunity to rotate. I have no issues with the rotations he made. We were talking about whether Hayley Rassel should start a game, for instance. I think he has to, at some point, when he bought Sandy in as a goalkeeper in the summer, he was going to have to play her at some point because this is an international goalkeeper we're talking about here as well. And to have 2 quality international goalkeepers both vying for that one place, it's a difficult balancing act, and I think she does have to get game time. We could see her obviously in the Conti Cup games, but obviously as well, WSL is technically a higher standard, and you wanted to play at that higher standard. And I thought she did very well, by the way, for her first game. I thought she did not look out of place. There was no issues across the back. And while we're talking about the back, Esme Morgan was exemplary again. She was given the captaincy. She handled it so well. I thought she was fantastic on the day, and she continues to grow and and grow as a player in my mind. And she's going to be, I think the team could be built around this sort of player. She could really develop and become a top star for me. I think we've already known that she had the potential to do this. We've seen her for a number of years, and she went to Everton on loan for a year, and that seemed to progress her forward again, playing in her first team on a regular basis. She came back, she got in our team, she got called up by England. Horrific injury, missed a year, and you often wonder how that could affect the player. Well, all it's done with Esme, I think, is make her more hungry to make up for that year that she missed out on. And the performance at Reading, I thought, was one of her best so far.
100%. I think Esme Morgan is one of those players that has just gone from strength to strength, and I think the word is matured. She's just fantastic, and she's such a great character as well. And it's just reward as well, really, for her efforts and her dedication that she's given the club for.
Absolutely. I mean, as Dave rightly says, you never know when players come back from those sort of terrible injuries. I mean, Chloe Kelly's a case in point with the ACL. You think either they were banging form, they get a bad injury, will it diminish them as players? And in both cases, they both come back stronger. Esme is just a really smart, intelligent, funny person, and has put that injury in perspective. And I think that's one of the things that's carried her into the England team. She's the sort of player you want in your squad. She's a character, she's a leader, and she's technically a very good player. And it was fantastic to see her get a full start in the last international. And she looked to the manner born. She looked like she'd been playing there in a very good England side, for years. So she's got huge potential, and it was fantastic to see Jess Park as well make her debut and grab a goal as well. So I think as Dave rightly says, you can't have people like Sandy McIver, you can't have people like Demi Stokes on the bench all the time, because they'll think, well, why am I here? So you do need to rotate, and it's worth noting. It's this week, a year ago, Jill Scott was playing at centre half for Manchester City in a makeshift shambolic team that we threw together, and she did a great job. But with Alex Green was sort of basically guiding around the pitch. That was a year ago. A year on, we've got a very good side, and a bench now of full internationals. Everybody on the bench, apart from one player, was a full international. So Gareth's got to rotate the team around, and I think it's good for the team, particularly as we're now in a sort of period of transition, to see who sits where, who's going to do the job going over the next couple of seasons. And I think that it's tricky for him. But actually, wouldn't you rather have that position than last year having to play Jill Scott at centre half, Georgia Stanway having the reserve goalkeeper jersey in a bag? That's where we were a year ago. A year on, very different picture.
He's right. If you look back to 12 months ago and where we're at, we're really thin on the ground. We're having to utilise players in and out of positions and asking a lot of the team. Do you feel that we've been progressive in the last 12 months now?
Oh yeah, I do. And we said on earlier podcasts this season, we talked about the recruitment over the summer, and I think it was very good. Paul mentioned earlier, Mary Fowler came on in that Reading game, and I thought she looked excellent. And we haven't seen we've only seen glimpses of Mary so far. But what I've seen, I've been really impressed. Same with Dana. I thought she had another great game at Reading. So the new players, the players we recruited over the summer are all integral to the plan. And it is about rotation. The modern game is, you're not dropping players. You're rotating, you're keeping them fresh, you're keeping them hungry. The goalkeeper is the hardest position to do it in, because obviously only one of them can ever play, and it takes an injury sometimes for one to come off the bench or something like that. That is a harder position to keep everybody happy in. It just traditionally it is. The others, I think Demi Stokes needed a game. She got a game. Now coming up, we've got a couple of important WSL games before the derby at the Etihad, obviously, which speaks for itself. We want to keep the momentum going, but we've also got a couple of Conti Cup games as well. So there's a potential now that we will see a high rotation of these players again in between all these games. And that's great, because it's an option for the manager. It keeps everybody fresh, everybody happy. Emma Hayes is a master of it at Chelsea. She keeps people on the bench, and how's she on the bench? But she keeps them all happy. They want to play for her. And that's the trick. And I think in the modern game, it's massive. The only thing I would say is sometimes all these international breaks throw a spanner in your momentum as a team. You're just getting going, and there's another international break. You get 2 weeks off. you want to keep it going, you want to keep the momentum going, you want to keep playing. But I think we're managing it quite well so far this season. Hopefully, we surely can't get the injuries we got last season, so it all bodes well. And this team is so exciting to watch for me. I'm really, really optimistic about this team, not only for this season but going forward. So I'm happy.
It's obviously worth mentioning as well. Gareth Taylor is shortlisted amongst the managers of the month. He didn't win, but it was nice to see him amongst the shortlist.
Yeah, I think he deserved the nomination. I think we've been excellent, except for the first game at Aston Villa, where we could have still won that game. Let's be fair about it, but we didn't play very well. Since then, I think we've played excellent. I think the tactics have been spot on. I think his choice and his rotations have been spot on. So, from his point of view, I think he's doing a great job. And like I say, I love watching this team play.
I nearly fainted when I saw he was on the list. It was astonishing because you think he was the world's worst coach. You listen to some of our fans and you listen to other fans around the league. He's an experienced coach. He was at the academy at City, which is no mean feat. He was headhunted to do this job, and as Dave Mantley says, he's done last season. He did the best he could with the chaos that he had to deal with. He's gone out and bought the players he wanted to buy. He shifted some players that potentially either wanted to go or he wanted them out. It seems to be a much happier ship at the moment in terms of the way the team interact with each other and the sort of atmosphere in the camp. And I think, he deserves it. As I said before, 12 out of 14 WSL wins, 4 consecutive wins. That's form. And that's enough form to get you a nomination. It was a shame he didn't win it, but the fact that he was nominated was in itself a minor miracle. And we should, I think the fans are now understanding that this guy knows what he's doing. He's now got a dressing room that seems a lot happier. He's got a settled coaching staff and he's got a settled squad that he can shape into what he wants to do as a coach. So it was a well-deserved nomination, and let's hope that the small minority of City fans are still moaning about the coach. We'll actually watch what's happening, because as Dave says, there's some very exciting, interesting things happening on the pitch if you care to have a look.
We return to action at the weekend against Everton. We've got a big run of games now up to Christmas. Everton away at, is it Walton Park Hall? Yeah. So it's a game we should be looking to win. It's always a little bit difficult. Everton are a good side. They've had some excellent moments themselves this season, and there's been a lot going on in and around the club. Familiar face, obviously, Jess Park on loan there at the moment. He's obviously heading into this one off of an excellent international break as well. Let's talk about Jess Park, because obviously she's on loan and she's a player that we're probably a little bit perplexed about the move, and obviously with everything going on at the club in the summer, that potentially you felt that Jess Park would have been one of the players that we'd probably look to have that little bit of stability within the squad, Dave.
Well, there's a lot of people said about, well, why did Jess go on loan, Jack? Why did Jess go on loan? But earlier I mentioned that Esme went on loan for a year at Everton, and she came back. It did her the world of good. You could see the improvement that a year playing every week in the WSL had done for her at that stage of her career. You could see it, literally see the improvement. And Everton are a good side to go to do that with as well, because as you said, Emma, they're a good team. So why it was Everton speaks for itself, because obviously, it's a good place to go and they do things the right way. Now, Jess, people said, well, why is Jess gone when she could be here? Well, you've got to look at it that she's got people ahead of her. People are clamouring, why doesn't Hayley start? You've got Chloe and Lauren starting, say, as your first 2 wide players, and people say, well, Hayley Rassel should start, and, so and so should start. So they can't all start every game. You can't. And Jess is at that stage, I think, where Esme was at, where she does need to play. It's going to do her the world of good to play every week. And so Everton could offer her that. And I think, hopefully, from City's point of view, at the end of the loan deal, we'll benefit from that. Rather than having her sat on our bench and coming off and doing 20 minutes every week, playing every week at Everton, I think will do her as a player more good, which in the long term does us as a club better, just as it did with Esme. So we reap the rewards at the end of it. So I'm quite happy that she's gone there. I hope she has a great season. She had a great season so far. I'm not sure she can play on Saturday. It's the same as in the men's game, because she's on loan from us. so she can't play against the parent club, which obviously that's another bonus for us. But the performance she put in, for instance, against Liverpool in the game they played at Anfield was outstanding. It didn't surprise me when she came on and scored for England the other night, because obviously she's on such a high at the moment and playing so well. So
in it,
yeah, I'm really pleased.
on the back of the net,
Sure.
Unbelievable. And I think
Yeah.
they're the moments that she deserves. She's worked hard for. She's been very patient. Her moments come, and at that senior level, she's played obviously at the unders and worked her way up through the ranks in terms of her growth and development. And she's been handed her opportunity and she's took it.
I couldn't agree more with Dave. The fact is that she wouldn't get game time. Everton are very thin on the ground squad-wise. Their squad's very thin. So she's going to get game time. She's going to get in that team every week and she's going to develop. And there's something to be said for playing in a team that's struggling a bit at times, because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about your technique. You learn a lot about having to dig in sometimes when you're not playing with the greatest players in the world. Top quality players every week. She will learn so much at Everton under a very good coach who will bring her on. And the likelihood is that in the next season or two, Kemp and Kelly potentially will move on. They may go, into Europe. So her time will come. And don't forget, we signed Jess Park on a very long contract by WSL standards. She is definitely seen, and she's a City fan as well, she's definitely seen as the future. So she will have sat down with the coach. He will have said, look, this is the plan. You go out and get that experience like Esme did. Come back to us in a year's time. You'll be then battle hardened and ready to challenge the other top flight wide players for a starting position. You're not quite there yet, but given another season, you'll give me a selection headache. So it's a brilliant move for her. And as Dave says, a brilliant move for us. And she'll come back a better player. Absolutely no doubt about that.
I just want to apologise because my mother-in-law's dog is going crazy. And you probably bloody hear it on the audio. She is doing my nothing and I can't wait for her to go home. Yeah, I mean, I am genuinely looking forward to the game on Saturday. It's great to obviously have the team back in action, and I think Everton poses a bit of a tough test, but I definitely feel that we can go there and get the result. One player, obviously, who's in on form at the moment, and again, we've been rewarded for her effort, and named player of the month for October is Bunny Shaw. I know we spoke about her at length in recent podcasts, but once again, I mean, she's one of those players that you can expect to produce in these sort of games.
Yeah, without a doubt. If we keep providing her with the service that she needs to put the ball in the net, she's going to carry on putting the ball in the net, which is what she's there to do. She's even scored for Jamaica over the international break, so she's just in bang on form. The goal at Reading, perfect example of the sort of ball she likes into the box. There isn't many defenders can handle her at all in the air. She's such a powerful player. Her positional sense is fantastic, and she seems to be thriving this season. With Ellen White retiring, we were a little bit worried, but she's come on, stepped up now. She's the number one striker at the club, and it seems to be, just suit her down to the ground. She's been thriving, and all the others need to do is just keep providing her with the ammunition. That's all they need to worry about. Getting the ball to Bunny where she likes it, where she wants it, where she's dangerous in the box, and she'll put it in the net. Well, I hope to see more of it over the next coming games.
I mean, to paraphrase a City legend, feed the goat, feed the bunny, and she will score.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you look at players like Bunny, and there's a good sort of parallel with Haaland over the road at the Etihad. They might not do a lot for quite a lot of the game, and then suddenly they'll be in the right place, right time, and they'll bang it in. And that's what great strikers do. I think Bunny's, like Haaland's, got a lot more to a game than people think. Got good feet. She's a good passer of the ball. She's not just a big battering ram. She knows how to, and her positioning and her movement in the box is fantastic. And as Dave says, she's dynamite in the air. So, you would expect her to keep scoring, given that Chloe Kelly's on one side and Lauren Hemp's on the other. And we're starting to see the midfield starting to push really clever balls through. She'll just keep scoring this season. And I'm really looking forward to seeing her in the derby, particularly because I think she'll give their defence nightmares. And I think she'll give Everton's defence some nightmares at the weekend because they're a team that need more personnel. They're so thin on the ground over there. They're struggling to contain the top teams like us. And I think, although I think Everton and that ground's not the ideal ground to be playing in, I think we would fancy ourselves to win that game.
So what are you expecting heading into, obviously, this game on Saturday, Dave? Are you expecting, obviously, we're not too sure about injuries, but, everyone seems to be, we've not heard anything during the international break that suggests that we could be a bit thin on the ground for this one. It's looking that everyone will be back and available. Gareth is yet to do his press conference. That'll be on Friday. But I'm going to presume that we're going to put out a relatively strong side for this one, and we'll probably see the likes of Chloe and Hempo back up front supporting Bunny.
I think you're right there. I think what Gareth will do is take stock as everyone comes back from internationals. Some of them playing, we record this, some of them last round of internationals now this week, tonight. They'll get them back later this week. It's not ideal, but he'll just make sure, see if anyone's got any knocks, any injuries, anything slight knocks, things like that. And then obviously probably have a good training session, if not Thursday, certainly Friday morning. Have a look at who's firing and what have you. And I think we've got Everton away, and we've got Conti Cup game against Sunderland, and then Brighton at home. Those are the 3 games before the derby. We want to keep that momentum going. So I think we'll see rotation, but I think you're right, Emma. I think if barring any injuries that we've not heard about, I think we'll go strong as possible on Saturday, because Everton away, it's a tough game. We need to go there and we need to play well. So I think we'll see the strong side. There might be a couple of changes from what we saw at Reading, possibly. And then we might see a bigger rotation for that Sunderland Cup game the following week. That's my theory on that. But I don't think it weakens the team. I mean, we saw against Blackburn in the Conti Cup, he can rotate the players. Players who need games can come in and have a great game. And and the youngsters came in and did well that day as well. So he's got such a lot of options available. I expect him to go quite strong at Everton. Yeah, I certainly do.
Can we just talk about a player that I kind of do feel has gone under the radar a little bit and has contributed a fair bit this season, is Laura Coombs. She's played a lot of minutes, particularly in the league, and she's in amongst the goals, in amongst the assists, and she's playing really well, I think, this season.
I think she's playing in England form. I really do. I'm not overhyping it. I think she's playing good enough to be in the England team. That's where I think she starts. She's definitely come on this season. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether she's getting more game time and we're seeing more of her. But she, 4 assists this season already. Very solid player. She's like an extra signing for us in a lot of ways, because she's really come on as a player. She's doing so much of the unsung hero stuff that you don't often see in a team unless you're paying attention. And she's doing all that work, and I think she's really, really cemented her place in that team at the moment. It's hard to see who would replace her.
Gareth obviously rates her highly because she's almost like the first name on his team sheet every week, and rightly so. Paul says she deserves to be in the team. She's played well. Now, I think you could argue she's gone into the team. Now, she's not a replacement for Kayla Walsh. First of all, no one can replace Kayla Walsh with what she does, because in my opinion, Kayla Walsh is the best in the world at what she does. But she's got into the team almost not in the same role, but in that position. That's what's opened up for her. Kira leaving's opened up a midfield position that she stepped into. Now, a lot of people might not, because she was already at the club, a lot of people might not have seen her as a direct replacement. And like I say, it's not like for like in terms of a football. It's not the same sort of, she's not the same sort of player at all. But she certainly stepped into that midfield and has done a lot, as you say, Emma, of the unsung work, the hard work that midfielders have to get through, especially for quality players around them to shine. They need the ball winning and giving to them and let them go with the ball. Every team has those. I don't like the term workhorses, because that makes it sound like they haven't got any quality about them, and they have. But Laura's got that, and she's formed a really good little partnership in that middle there. There's her, and since Yui's coming to the side, she seems to like playing alongside it, and Dana. And what Laura does is, she's in that midfield there, And then you've got Dana almost in a number 10 role at Reading, and it seemed to work really well. So the balance just seems to be right. And I think Gareth's really happy with his midfield at the moment. It's great to see.
I'm hoping Dane will bang a goal in from the halfway line in this game.
Yeah.
You know, as she did in the Scotland game. And she's got form for it. This is a second halfway line goal. So I'm hoping she'll knock one in from there at Walton Park, and we can sort of relax a bit.
Yeah, if anyone's not seen that goal, it is up on the OSC Twitter. Just have a look at the goal she scored for her country against Scotland. It's the cracker, literally from inside the centre circle.
Keeper would be fuming. I'd be fuming with that. I mean, she was so far off the line, but obviously to see it, envision that and just think, no, I'm going to have a go at this. I love that, the tenacity of some players, the confidence, comes through, gets the goal. It's great to see.
Yeah. Like Paul said before as well, I just think this team's playing with a freedom and a happiness as well. There seems to be there's a spirit in the team. You can see it when they score, you can see it when they're warming up. They just look balanced at the moment. It looks balanced, it looks happy. And, we might not challenge. Let's be honest, we probably won't challenge for the title this season because the top two, might have a little bit more. It's the experience is what we're lacking, but we'll get that going forward. These players will get experience. This season, you could argue this season's transitional. And as Paul said earlier, we're probably ahead of where they thought we might be. But there's no reason why we can't.
I think what Paul said about, perhaps on reflection being that bit further ahead than what we perhaps expected, given the start, given the changes, and obviously we've used that word transitional, at the beginning of the season when we spoke about our ideals and our expectations, looking ahead to the season and what, as fans we expected. I think the fact that we've got to this point, bridge that gap, we're working our way up the table and we're in and around those positions of where, we want to be is enough at the moment, because you can see the progression and you can see the promise of what an exciting team we can potentially be.
I mean, the reality is, as we said before, we lost 3 world-class players in the summer, and England's top goal scorer ever retired. So essentially, we lost 4 world-class players in the close season. And whilst, as Dave rightly says, not the players that are coming are not necessarily like for like replacement. Where we're at in terms of how we look as a team, having lost those great players, I think that the players have done a really good job of getting their act together and playing to a system that works for them. Now we're starting to see some really good potential from those players come in. I mean, some of those players are top quality anyway. Bunny Shaw's a top class international striker already, so that's a like for like replacement. I think Laura Coombs, as we've mentioned, is starting to do some of the work that Georgia Stanway was doing for us. The hard yards, some of the stuff that Jill used to do for us. The back four looks much more solid. We've got a good keeper, a bench that's full of internationals. So I think we're probably, in a way, the fact that we've still got a potential to be top 3, and I think we should be looking at the top 3 as a minimum, and a cup. I think we're in a good place, and it does seem a happy ship. That does seem very obvious to most people. It just seems a lot happier for some reason. I think there's probably 1 or 2 reasons you could point to, but I think it just seems like a better environment for experimenting and perhaps some less egos involved.
Obviously, looking ahead to Saturday, then a classic Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. I love that. I love it. Obviously, a TV pick as well. I think it's on Sky Sports. So if you can't obviously get to the game, I mean, I know OSC they've put some travel on, Dave.
Yeah, we haven't got a coach going as ever. I think as we speak now, as we record this, there are limited seats left. So if anyone wants to get on, just get in touch with us. Usual place, or DM us on Twitter, or send us an email, and we'll. So yeah, obviously it's not too far, and as you say, I'm a very rare 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Very rare occurrence that. It's not too far, so you won't be late back and all that. So it's a great opportunity to come to an away game if you've not tried one yet.
And especially obviously with men's football, World Cup going on. Mm-hmm. Perhaps a good opportunity to, for new fans to get along to the game that perhaps haven't been along yet, and watch what will be most definitely an entertaining game.
There's a lot of social media chatter, people on Twitter particularly encouraging fans of the men's game to use this long international break, and the fact that a lot of us are not really that interested in the World Cup this time out for a number of reasons. And I have virtually zero interest in the World Cup, which is the first time in my lifetime that I've felt like that about the World Cup. I'm uncomfortable with what the regime in Qatar. I'm also uncomfortable with the season being wrecked halfway through in this fashion. So I think there's a lot of chat and people saying, if you want your football fix, there's all the lower leagues are playing, all the women teams are playing. Go and have a look. Go and have a look at the women's game. As we've said time after time, if you come and see the women's game, it's a brilliant product. There's going to be 2,500 people in Liverpool on that ground, small ground, watching some of the best players in the world. Really good atmosphere, really welcoming, inclusive atmosphere. This is a golden opportunity for people who have perhaps not seen the game before to come along, and it's just a cheap day out. It's fantastic quality football. Lovely sets of fans who who have a bit of fun, but don't abuse each other. It's just a great opportunity, I think, over the next 3 or 4 weeks to sample something, and I think the Etihad will probably sell out for the derby, and that's another massive showcase for us as well. To sort of say, look, we can get 40 odd thousand on to watch a women's game, and let's hope it continues.
I don't think there's anything else to add to that. If you can get to the game, obviously get in touch with the OSC, go along and enjoy some football. Why not?
Yeah, all welcome. The more the merrier. And we've got home games before the derby at the Academy, also during this Men's World Cup. Obviously, we've got Sunderland in the County Cup and we've got Brighton. I think they're both on Sundays, Sunday afternoons, 2:00 jobs. So they're all easily. So if you fancy coming along, get yourself along to the Academy Stadium and come and see the women for the first time, maybe. Then you've got the derby at the Etihad, which speaks for itself, as Paul said. I think that hopefully will sell out. That speaks for itself and takes care of itself. And it is an opportunity to take centre stage with people who don't maybe usually come or have never come to a women's game. I'm often selling it to people and say, give it a go, just try it. Well, now's your chance.
Definitely. Boxing Day. Boxing, I still can't get that into my head. The men's football, the Premier League it resumes Boxing Day. I mean, I look forward to it. Like you, Paul.
It's actually later for City. It's the 28th, the next league game for City. I think they've got Carabao Cup against Liverpool before Christmas, but league game 28th. As Paul says, it's an uncomfortable situation really to stop the whole season for it.
A lot of people resonate, I think, with what Paul said. It is just very uncomfortable.
Go into a country where it's not a popular sport, so we're not growing the game. A country where it's difficult for women and young girls to play the game. A country which has an appalling record on LGBTQ plus rights. What on earth are they going to do with the stadiums afterwards? Because I don't think there's a league in Qatar, and there's no hinterland of support in Qatar. Maybe they think they're going to create a league, but so it's a waste of resources. It's hugely expensive. It just makes a mockery of what the World Cup should be about. The World Cup should be going to either home hinterland of the game or somewhere where there's a real chance of growing the game. It's the same with someone like Australia, for instance, Australia and New Zealand, where you might be able to grow the game a bit more. So it on every level, this World Cup is something that I just really struggling to get any interest in. And that's the first time in my lifetime as a football fan that I've not thought, great, it's the World Cup this summer. And that World Cup this winter. I mean, it's just madness, isn't it?
Mm.
It's so bizarre. Even when I see it advertised on telly, obviously it's starting next week. It's bizarre to me, very bizarre. But
it is bizarre. Definitely
encourage anyone to utilise this opportunity to get along, even if it's not City, any women's game, your local team, and support even non-league, support other teams, support other leagues. Just go and enjoy football because it's a great opportunity to do so.
It is, yeah. I agree with you. It really is. Yeah, you should give it a go.
Right, thank you both for your time this evening. It's been wonderful to catch up as always, and hopefully we can reconvene next week.
Yep. Hopefully we'll win in the bag. Thanks, Emma.
Yeah, let's keep the momentum going. Keep winning. Obviously, all eyes are on this derby coming up. We've got games before then that we need to keep winning. So they're just as important, the games before the derby. So let's keep the momentum going, starting on Saturday, and we'll be all right.
Definitely. We'll end it on that one. Cheers, Dave. Thanks, Paul. Speak to you soon.
Cheers,
Bye, Emma.
Yeah.
Bye.
And that's it for this week's episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to Dave and to Paul for joining me. If you are travelling to Everton on Saturday, have a safe trip and enjoy the game. As we said in the podcast, it's been selected as a TV pick, so it will be available to watch live on Sky Sports. Kickoff is 3 p.m. We'll be back next Friday. Have a great week, everyone.